Welcome to Fractional Futures, the essential podcast for CEOs, investors, and senior marketing executives looking to unlock the power of fractional marketing leadership. I'm Paul Mills, your guide on this journey, where me and my special guests uncover how this innovative leadership model is reshaping the business landscape. Whether you're a business leader looking to build a competitive advantage, an investor seeking to enhance the value of your portfolio, or a senior marketing executive considering a fractional career, this podcast is for you. We'll share expert insights, provide actionable strategies, and explore real-world success stories to help you leverage fractional marketing leadership for maximum impact. Tune into Fractional Futures and discover how to revolutionize your business and career.
Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of Fractional Futures, where in each episode, I'm speaking to a fractional leader somewhere across the globe. My purpose in this season is to get their perspectives on how the fractional leadership model is being embraced by the business landscape. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Lydia McClelland, who operates as a fractional CMO in Northern Ireland, and she's founder of LMC Associates. Lydia is also a chartered marketer with the CIM, a SOSTAC licensed trainer, and a World Host Customer Service approved training provider. So, hi Lydia, welcome to the show. You wear many hats.
Yes. Good morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And I guess for the listeners, I mentioned SOSTAC there. For the listeners who may not know what SOSTAC is, can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Yes, SOSTAC is a marketing planning methodology that was developed by P.R. Smith. And really what it does is bring a beautiful structure to the chaos of marketing. So SOSTAC, for those who don't know, stands for S stands for situation analysis, O stands for objectives, S for strategy, T for tactics, A for action, and C for control. And it's a great model to kind of put your marketing into that framework. It makes it very, very clear for internal customers and external customers in terms of how you do your marketing.
Fantastic. And I'm a SOSTAC certified planner myself, so I find it personally a fantastic model to use when doing any form of strategic planning, whether it's a business plan, a marketing plan, a digital plan. It's very adaptable, isn't it, across different contexts?
Yes, definitely. It can be used in sales and marketing, and even customer service as well. So lots of different ways it can be used. So I must admit, I'm a big advocate of it as well.
Fantastic. And I'll put a link to the SOSTAC resources at the end of the show so people can find out more about it if they want to. So Lydia, before we jump in and explore your fractional career to date, can you tell the listeners a little bit about your background before you got into the fractional space?
Yes, so I've held a number of senior head of marketing and business development roles and general management roles across a range of sectors. So over the best part of 20 years, I've worked in sectors like economic development, the arts, higher education, and also with a science centre and in the tourism sector. So quite a mixed portfolio of jobs, as I say, at senior management level within those organisations. From an educational point of view, I've got a master's in business. I have the CIM postgrad diploma in marketing, and as you've already mentioned, I'm a SOSTAC certified planner and trainer too.
Fantastic. And that's a lot of stuff you've been involved with. I've seen your background. It's pretty impressive. So what made you go from being, I guess, an in-house marketer to finding this fractional space? What was it about the model that appealed? Why did you decide to move across?
So 5 years ago, I did make the brave move and literally walk away from my last job to set up my own business. So I really kind of enjoyed or wanted to have the opportunity to use a vast range of skills to help businesses, to help SMEs develop and grow. So I kind of thought, how can I do that? So that has really developed out into a number of services that I offer to SMEs to help them with their business growth.
And what is it about the fractional model that was particularly appealing for you?
So what I really like is the approach in terms of being able to help multiple businesses at any given time. So obviously when you're in-house with a company, you're with them full time and full pelt. However, with the fractional model, you're able to kind of apply your knowledge and skills to different sectors and help multiple companies at any given time. So I must admit, I love the variety of the work and the variety of sectors that I work with.
And I think that's, you've spoken about variety of clients that you can choose, the sectors you can work in, the types of projects or opportunities that you might get involved with.
Yeah.
So when it came to transitioning across from that in-house marketer to this fractional role, what challenges did you have to overcome to transition across?
I've actually found it very straightforward to transition across. I suppose it's getting companies to understand how you can add value in quite a short space of time. So instead of working 5 days a week for a company, that actually you can add value, and that could be 1 day a week or so many days a month. So getting companies really to realise that they don't necessarily need somebody full time and on a full salary to deliver similar outcomes and outputs for the business.
And in terms of, I guess, if you reflect back to your in-house role as a senior marketer and now operating on a fractional work style basis, how do the two roles differ? Can any marketer transition to this, or do you have to adapt yourself or pick up new skills to morph into this new portfolio work style? Because it does come with unique challenges, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think one of the core principles for me is to continually be learning. So in terms of working with different sectors, I'm obviously continually learning new sector approaches. But I feel that the skills and the experience of being a marketeer, it is transferable. So it doesn't matter if you're marketing a big pen or you're marketing a training company. The kind of marketing techniques are similar, and strategy is obviously adapted to suit that particular market and that particular company or product that you're working with. But it's all very transferable, but really important to be able to get up to speed very quickly in the sector that you're working in. And a lot of my clients, those sectors I've never worked in before, because my background was economic development, the arts, higher education, and tourism. So now, the companies that I'm working with, it's there's a lot of private sector companies and a very diverse range of products and services that I'm supporting.
And it'd be rude not to mention your lovely Northern Irish accent there. I know Northern Ireland very well, and Portrush, Portstewart, Giant's Causeway, and all that. So, how have Northern Irish businesses been embracing this fractional marketing leadership model?
I still feel it's quite a new concept, and obviously I'm trying to raise the profile of what I'm doing, and the likes of VCMO is doing as well. So it is quite a new concept, and I think the biggest challenge for companies is to kind of say, do you know what, we don't need somebody full time to actually deliver this, and perhaps for them to trial it or pilot it with a fractional approach. So it is still quite a new concept, and the word is getting out. I do feel as well, obviously with recent budget changes and the national insurance contributions increasing and stuff, it's payroll is going to be higher for companies, so the fractional model will hopefully add value there.
Yeah, and in terms of the types of businesses in Northern Ireland you mentioned there, are there any particular sectors that you see are embracing the fractional model more than others?
Not necessarily on a sectoral approach. It's maybe more in terms of the size of the company. So typically I would work with companies that are £1 million plus turnover, or striving at least to get to £1 million plus. And again, it's about the cost of overhead of maybe carrying a marketing resource. Whereas if you bring in a fractional, I feel you can get to the kind of solution a lot quicker, as opposed to kind of loading in a heavy salary for a marketing, maybe a senior marketing person.
I was at a Growth Titans summit talking about fractional leadership just the other day, and some of the audience, they were sort of challenging me around the fractional model and saying, well, it's just the same as a consultant. And I was trying to explain why a fractional role is different to a typical consultancy role. And one of the challenges that someone gave to me was, what value, if you're working on a part-time basis with someone, what value can you really offer? Is it like a dilution of the expertise? And I kind of said, it's not really. And I said, if you think about a full-time CMO in an organization, most of their time is probably spent, if you really do a time analysis study, most of the time is spent in meetings or dealing with people issues. And a very small part of their time is actually focused on strategy and developing planning. Is that something that you see, that the fractional leaders can come straight in, hit the ground running, and deliver value from day one, and not get too bogged down by people issues and bureaucracy and politics of the company?
Yes, I feel that, because you're on a very short time scale. So if you're only there 1 day a week, you have a certain job to get done. And I find that I'm very focused on what I actually need to achieve for that company and the time that I have with them. So albeit that you might only be working with a company, for example, one day a week, you don't stop thinking about the company. So although you're maybe physically with them or virtually with them 1 day a week, you're constantly aware of things that are going on that might be able to help the company, and you're picking up things perhaps from the wider environment that can help them. So although the client's only paying for the 1 day a week, they're getting kind of your thinking space and your brain space for much more than that 1 day a week. But certainly from maybe internal meetings and internal staffing issues and things, you can probably stay out of that to a certain extent because you're focused on the job that you need to do and the time that you have with them, and just being really effective and efficient with the time that you have in-house with that company.
And how have you had to adapt, I guess, your own work style? Because if you're managing multiple clients, or you've got multiple hats on with all your other activities, how do you manage your time? Because I guess if there's marketers listen to this and they think, actually, I quite like the idea of this fractional role, how have you had to adapt, I guess, time management really to make sure that you hit deadlines, you deliver?
Absolutely. Well, I suppose that in the past, when I was in-house, I always have been, I feel very kind of, structured in terms of getting work done, but appreciate when you're in-house, you can be sideswiped by internal issues or other things that are happening. So I find that I've just sort of brought that through into my own business. I am very structured with my time in terms of my calendar, my diary invites, blocking out time for key projects, and holding time for clients in terms of the work that needs to be done. So I just see it as kind of another version of kind of being in-house with a company and multiple projects, but the multiple projects now are with multiple clients. So it's the same principles apply, but yes, you do need to be very disciplined with your time. And obviously if you're working to deadlines and telling clients that you will have something done by a certain time, you need to stick to that and be structured with that.
And how do you cope because you can't always predict what a client's needs are going to be once you're actually working with them.
Yeah.
So how do you cope when the workload hits a heavy volume? How do you manage your time there?
Yeah. Well, generally, I'm quite good at scoping. I think the project in the first instance, in terms of what needs to be done, in terms of the scale of the challenge in the marketing environment. So again, I'm quite realistic about what needs to be done. But again, sometimes it's about having a conversation with a client. If you find, say, you've committed to 4 days a month, but actually in a number of months it's going to take you maybe 8 days a month to deliver out. So generally, I would have that conversation with the client to say, although we've scoped this, there's much more needs to be done and it's going to need more of my time. Clients are generally very good because they understand, there's a trust element there obviously as well, and they understand that you're giving them good advice and guidance. But generally, I find I'm quite good at scoping the project in the first instance. And sometimes with clients, there's maybe a front load where there's maybe more days at the start of the fractional role, and then it scales back once projects, and kind of marketing campaigns get up and running. There can be a bit of a scale back in the approach. So the front load approach works for me as well.
If there are any business owners, CEOs listening to this, and they can actually, I quite like the concept of this fractional CMO. From the conversations that you have, what's the biggest misconception you have from business leaders about the fractional model? Do they see it in a certain way? Do they have some objections as you're describing it? Do they have any objections they throw at you?
To be fair, it's been quite straightforward to date. I think the biggest thing is about trust, because you're coming in at a senior level to work with the team, normally at that senior management level or potentially board level, so you have to embed yourself quite quickly and be a trusted partner really in terms of being that fractional CMO. So the main thing I suppose is getting up to speed, especially if it's a new sector, is getting up to speed with the sector and learning that as quickly as you can. I always say to clients, it feels like as if I'm starting a new job, and there's only so many kind of new jobs you can take on in any one given period from a head capacity and brain capacity point of view. So it does feel like starting a new job and getting up to speed with their sector, and also the personalities and the people that you're going to work with as well. Trying to embed yourself very quickly and figure out who are your key stakeholders who you need to work with to get the job done and make the impact that they're expecting you to make for the business.
Yeah. You mentioned about working in multiple sectors. Do you get any objections, or how do you handle the objection when someone's looking for a marketer that has explicitly expertise in that niche or that vertical?
Yeah. So I'm always very clear with clients in terms of where my sectoral experience lies or doesn't lie. And to date, it hasn't really been a challenge for me. Maybe it's the Northern Ireland market just hasn't been a challenge. But what clients really do appreciate, sometimes they say we'd nearly prefer somebody without the sectoral knowledge, because you're going to ask different questions to help your understanding. So I always say, like, in the first number of weeks, there'll be lots of kind of stupid questions coming from me, but it's to help my understanding, because the way I take on the challenge, it's like starting a new job, embedding yourself into the team. And you need to know. So there's questions that if you haven't worked, for example, in the FMCG sector with a client that I'm working with at the moment, like I've no FMCG experience until now, but I'm asking questions and trying to unpick and understand how the sector actually works. So I think they appreciate freshness of approach and kind of challenging the way things are done. So I sometimes feel it's an advantage not having sectoral experience to work with particular clients.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point there. For business leaders who are listening to this and they're thinking, I need the marketing capability in the business, the fractional model sounds like a great option. I guess the process they'd normally go through to get that expertise would be the traditional recruitment route. They'd go to market, find some recruiters, get a cohort of suitable candidates, go through the interview process, select, onboard. That takes quite a long time. So for business leaders that might be contemplating embedding the fractional model in the business, what advice would you give to someone?
Well, I think in terms of a fractional, we can come in at relatively short notice, obviously subject to what other projects and diary, other work you have on. So we can kind of probably hit the ground running maybe within a month with a client from maybe initial conversations and proposal to them, so that kind of speed of entry, I think, is really, really important. Sometimes I do find with clients as well is I might be with them, say, for a year initially on that sort of fractional basis, but as time goes on and they see the kind of scope of marketing, what marketing can achieve for them, they may start to feel, well, actually, we could do with somebody, more full-time within the business or more hours within the business that I may not be able to offer. So it could be something that you're building out a team for a client as well. But I think in terms of the CMO roles, you can kind of come in at quite a pace and you get to the nub of the challenge very, very quickly. You kind of have to understand what needs to be done and getting a plan in place for delivering for the client. So speed is definitely one of the biggest attributes, I think.
And in terms of embedding the fractional CMO into the organization, what advice would you give business leaders listening to this? Because you're not in the business 5 days a week.
No.
You might be for a very, very short period of time, perhaps, but typically you'd be in the business 1-2 days a week, maybe a few days a month. So how does that embedding process work? What's your experience of that?
I think for me, it's about getting up to speed with the kind of the business strategy, first of all, also about kind of meeting key internal stakeholders and understanding how that I'm going to work with them and being just really clear in terms of what is the challenge, what am I there to do, what does good look like. So within 6 months or 12 months, what's the expectations of that client? So just having those really frank and honest conversations about what they expect. And for some clients, it is about, it's a very new process to them. They maybe haven't overly invested in marketing before. They might have a very strong commercial team and commercial director, but the marketing element has just been missing for the organization. So a lot of the time it is about educating clients on what marketing is about, that it is strategic. It's not just about the tactics, that it is a strategic approach and it covers lots. I will be asking lots of questions that they might think, well, is that marketing related? But yes, it is, because it's linked to the business strategy and understanding how marketing can deliver for the bottom line.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think if any business owners are listening and they think, I'll bring a fractional CMO on board to jazz up my PowerPoints, it's probably the wrong solution.
No.
Yeah, good stuff. And I guess for marketers listening to this, marketers that are operating at a senior level, that they've been in-house, they're entering the second half of their career, sort of the twilight years. If they're contemplating this fractional work style, what advice would you give to them in terms of making that transition happen?
Personally, I think it's all about your network. Your network for me is very much your net worth. So I have spoken to some friends who are very senior and capable, competent marketeers, and I've obviously advocated for the approach that I have taken, and they see how hopefully I'm flourishing in terms of the having running my own business over the past 5 years. And the thing that they've said to me is, Lydia, you have a network that I don't have. So that is really, really key. I think, don't expect to jump out of a nice salary job with all the benefits that come with it and expect work to land on your desk on day one. You need to be networking with, using your network to kind of see what opportunities are out there. And, initially maybe to see, can you get 1 or 2 contracts kind of on the books before you would consider, leaving that nicely paid CMO role or head of marketing role that you have. So networking is very, very important. For me, though, it's been a balance of the CMO work with other portfolios. So in terms of my business, I do a range of things. I have a training division in terms of a range of licensed training products that I train on as well. I do mentoring and I also do executive coaching. So I've kind of a mixed portfolio of work that brings me in kind of income from different revenue streams as such, which is really appropriate. And I also then work as an associate to the likes of VCMO as well. So making your connections and sort of see, are there other ways that people can provide you with work? So working as an associate to other organisations is a great way to do that as well. So I have the balance, and as you say, Paul, wearing many, many hats. in terms of the different kind of roles that I play. But it's important to network and sort of see where those opportunities might come from for you, because the work is just not going to land on your doorstep on day one. You have to go out and look for it. So there is that piece really about, in terms of you are your own business development and sales and marketing person as well. So you have to kind of go out and seek the work and see where the opportunities are.
Yeah, I've spoken to several people who are thinking about migrating into this work style, and I've spoken to hundreds of people who've actually been doing it and are struggling.
Yeah.
And a common thread is that a lot of people think because they've been operating at a very senior level, CMO level in a corporate, earning good money, they can just step into this fractional role, no problem. And it takes at least 6 to 12 months to get traction. And it could take you 2 or 3 years to claw back the salary that you were on before you moved into this work style. And I think there will be, certainly at the very start of that transitional period, you may not be earning any income for a few months as you're building traction, because no one knows you, no one wants you, no one likes you. So it can take a few months just to get those first few opportunities over the line. And it may not be those high ticket opportunities that you think you can jump straight into. So I think it's very important to make sure that you've got at least 6, 12 months of your old salary in the bank just to fall back onto a security should you struggle to find work early on.
Absolutely. But certainly it's given me great flexibility. I have two young girls, and when I stepped away from my last job, the kids were very, very young at that stage, but it's given me great flexibility around the family, being more present at home. And that was one of the things I think when I was in employment, I very much was kind of nearly felt like a slave to my employer, in the sense that, I was kind of always switched on for them. Whereas now I feel much more connected even to my family, and the simple things like being able to do the school run in the morning or the pick up in the afternoons, and manage my diary around family priorities as well. Like, so sometimes you can't pay a price for that, so but yes, as you say, the salary point of view, you're not necessarily going to replicate your salary on day one unless you secure a couple of fabulous clients to kickstart. But yes, it's about being realistic about expectations of walking away. But you're the master of your own destiny in terms of what you do with the income that you bring in as well. So it's up to you how you manage it.
Lydia, you've spoken about the fractional model being a relatively new thing in Northern Ireland. It's a new thing across the rest of Britain. Where is the model going to be in 5 years' time? Is it going to be fully embedded? Is everyone going to have fractional experts on board in the business, or is it going to die?
I hope. I obviously hope it continues to flourish. And I do, as I mentioned earlier, like in terms of the national insurance contributions increasing for employers, small businesses have been badly hit by the recent budget. So, this idea of kind of the fractional and not carrying kind of as big overheads for companies, I think companies are going to have to think a bit more creatively about how they resource their businesses. And as fractionals, and it doesn't matter whether you're a fractional, salesperson or marketing or financial director, you're bringing significant expertise and, knowledge and contacts and skills to the table, which you're not necessarily going to get by putting one person in, full time. So you can kind of short circuit, I think, a lot of the work and a lot of the opportunities by having somebody who's really hopefully at the top of their game in that kind of fractional role that can add value. And it is all about adding value to our clients. And for me, it is about the connections and contacts and making linkages for opportunities. For companies as well. So being able to kind of connect the dots is a big part of what I do across the kind of geography of UK and Ireland as well.
And Lydia, before we go, I'd like to explain to listeners a little bit about your role within World Host.
Yes, so I'm an approved trainer for World Host. And World Host is a globally recognised customer service training opportunity. So we offer at a global level their training programs in customer service, principles of customer service, and dealing with conflict. So it's a great they're one-day training programs, and they're brilliant. Well, they can work across all sectors, but they're brilliant kind of for front customer, kind of customer-facing staff, whether that be, for example, in retail or hospitality, or even, those that are working maybe in call center environments. So it's a great one-day program that helps companies to kind of embed customer service fully within their organization and kind of invest in staff to, training them up for, to be the best customer service people that they can be. So globally recognized because qualification. It was born out of Canada, and it's been used for training, for example, for volunteers for the Olympics, for the World Fire and Police Games, Many of the kind of large events have trained all their volunteers on World Host. It's a certified course, and there's a small test at the end of the program. So for those that pass, they'll get their certification in terms of World Host.
I'll put some links to World Host in the podcast notes and video notes, so people can go and look that up if they're interested. Lydia, that's probably a good point to close the show. So if you've been listening or watching this episode, I hope you found value from the discussion and you've been inspired by Lydia's insights. Lydia, thank you again for giving up your time this morning to share your perspectives. I really enjoyed the show and listening to your insights there. And I wish you the very best of luck with your future journey and wearing all those hats at the same time. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul.